Welcome back to the Fantasy Fortune YouTube channel. Today, we're going to dive into my fantasy football tight end rankings and tiers. I got 5 tiers. I got an elite tier, I got a good tier, I got a solid tier, I got a streamable sometimes, and then a dart throw tier. And so we'll dig deep into all of them. Let's just start with the elite tight ends, tier 1 guys. There are 5 guys. I have them in order right now, but I have yet to finalize my order for these top 5. It is Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, and Trey McBride. Now, for me, I'm still rolling with the old guys. But I love all these. I love all 5 of these guys except Sam Laporta has ADP because it's way more expensive. But I'm not going to yap about Sam Laporta. I yapped about him for 10 minutes on one of my last videos, 3 early round avoids. If you want to hear 10 minutes on why I think he's overvalued, go listen there. I'm not going to shit on the guy in this video. He'll be fine. So Mark Andrews, for me, he's given us multiple top 5 finishes. We've seen him finish as the tight end 1 just 2 years ago. Last season was on pace to be top 5 again before he got hurt. He scored 6 touchdowns because he is the number 1 receiver in a top 5 offense. Even if they run the ball at a higher rate, being the number 1 guy on a consistent year-to-year basis, he's only 28. He's not 34 like Travis Kelce. And coming back from injury, I expect him to return. He's got an elite quarterback. He's the number 1 target in his offense, which is huge for being the tight end 1 in fantasy football. I think he's just got the safest floor. Definitely safer than... Honestly, he might have the safest floor out of all of them. Maybe Laporta up here. And because, Kincaid and McBride, we've only seen the second half breakout, not a full sample size. McBride has Harrison added. Kincaid was a little inconsistent, and, we're not really sure if he's the number 1 guy there or not. And Kelce regressed a lot last season, so I don't know. I mean, that's really why I have Mark Andrews at number 1. But number 2 is Travis Kelce. And for me, it's tough because I drafted him last year in my biggest league, and he fucking sucked. Not really. He was still tight end 1 in points per game. He sucked in the playoffs, though. He was tight end 22, did not help me out at all, and they really just didn't care to use him because they're ready for the fucking playoffs. And I hope that's not the case this year. But as Nick Ercolano from BDGE pointed out, Kelce had his worst season since probably the beginning of the Patrick Mahomes era, maybe even before that. Only scoring 5 touchdowns was the problem, but he was still targeted over 20 times in the red zone. And Mahomes only threw 27 touchdowns, which isn't that bad, but by Mahomes standard, it is. He's usually throwing 35 to 45 touchdowns, and I think he returns to that this year. Kelce's had 9, 11, and 12 touchdowns in previous seasons where Mahomes has thrown for 35 to 45 touchdowns. I think we get that again. This offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. Like they were barely a good offense last year. But I think we'll be back to gunslinger Mahomes, and Kelce should score more. Just like the fact that he regressed and took a step back, it's why he's not at 1. It's a little concerning. However, he should be completely fine. He was still tight end 1 in points per game. I have Dalton Kincaid at tight end 3, and the reason for that is I think out of anyone here, except maybe Mark Andrews, he's got the clearest path to being the tight end 1. Now, like I said, he was a little inconsistent towards the end of the year, and we haven't seen him in this role yet as the number 1 guy. And it could be Curtis Samuel, it could be Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Without Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis in this offense, it's wide open, and I think that Kincaid, being a first-round draft pick who broke out towards the second half of the season last year, could be the leading receiver for this Bills team with 8 to 900 receiving yards and maybe 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think that's within the realm of possibilities. Shout out my Brock Purdy jersey, by the way. Just realized I was wearing this on the camera. Kincaid, I think, has more upside. I've seen a lot of people hating on him, saying he's not the number one guy. He's inconsistent, all this crap. Which, honestly, like, if I was a little bit more confident in him being the number one guy, he could be the tight end one here because he's got the second best quarterback in the league. But I really am all in on Kincaid, and he's valued as the fifth guy out of these five, or sometimes the fourth. Like, Andrews and him, I have the top three tight ends, but they're both valued as fourth and fifth. Number 4, I have Sam Laporta. Like I said, check out my last video if you want to see the reasoning. I'm lower on Sam Laporta than others. He's way, way overvalued in the second round on Sleeper, third round on Underdog and Fantasy Pros, which is way higher than all these guys except Kelsey. And I think that's unnecessary. And another thing I saw today from Fantasy Footballers, every time a tight end has had 10 receiving touchdowns or less, they haven't had more than 7 the following season. I think he's bound for touchdown regression even though he's in a great offense. 10 touchdowns is a lot. That's almost double the next highest guy, which I think was Andrews, who played half the season and had 6. Another reason I really fucking like Andrews. He could throw up 800, 900 receiving yards again and another 10 touchdowns, in which case he probably will be a top 3 tight end. I kind of just expect a little bit less touchdowns, and he was only 7th in receiving yards per game and tight end 3 in points per game. I just don't know what all the hype is, but he will undoubtedly be a top 5 tight end, and I have him at 4. I think if all these guys were on the board and it was time for me to pick a tight end, I'd pick him at 4th. That's what it comes down to, but I won't fault you if you have him at 1 or 2 or 3, but I will fault you if you think he's worth a second-round pick. And like I said, just watch my last video if you want to see why. His over-under on Underdog Fantasy is 7.5 touchdowns. That stat I just read you, I'm taking the under there. And if you want to tail me, or honestly, you probably want to fade me because most people fade me and disagree with my Sam Laporta hate. Make sure you use code FORTUNE on Underdog. They'll give you a deposit match, a 50% deposit match. So if you just want to throw in $10, they'll give you another $5. Or if you want to just throw $250 in, they'll give you $125 for free. But like I said, if you throw the $10 in and you DM my Instagram that proof that you did it and use code FORTUNE, I'm just going to send you your $10 back. Nobody has done this for me yet. People are joining Underdog with my code, but I've been offering the reimbursal as a thank you for using my code, and nobody's done it. So just DM me. I'll send you your $10 back, and you'll just have a free-ass $15 to use on tailing or fading my picks, or just do a best ball draft for fantasy football. On top of me reimbursing your $10 if you send me proof, I will let you in my free fantasy football league where $100 will be going to first place. We're about halfway filled at the time of me recording this on July 24th. Obviously, we're going to be talking about this tier a lot more than the rest. We'll get shorter and shorter as we go down. But Trey McBride, I really fucking like Trey McBride, and I hate that I have to have him at 5 because honestly, I think a month ago when I was ripping Underdog drafts, he was like my favorite. He was my tight end 1 damn near. And it's not that I don't like him. I just think he averaged 15 points per game last season in the second half of the year from week 8 on when he became a full-time starter and Kyler Murray came in. He was the number 1 option in the offense, though, and that's the only reason I have him at 5, but he is absolutely still a tier 1 guy that could average 12 to 15 fantasy points per game. Like, he was an absolute target hawk last year in the second half. I do think Marvin Harrison being there will knock his 15 points per game down a couple. With that being said, though, I'm so in on this Cardinals offense. I think there will be a shootout team because the offense is good. They'll have a good run game. They'll have a good pass game. The defense is going to suck. There will be shootouts. I think there'll be high-scoring offense, a league-winning offense. And honestly, the more I talk about this, the more I just want to have this guy in the top 3. So I would say take my 1 through 5 specific rankings with a grain of salt at the moment because this is not official yet. I really want to move Trey McBride up. They might change a little bit. They'll be finalized in the next few weeks. But this is absolutely the tier 1. And if you want to go in terms of value, the fact that I can't make up my mind, Mark Andrews is the best pick, then Dalton Kincaid, because they are valued later than the rest of them, and then Trey McBride, and then probably Kelsey and Laporta. They're valued a round or two earlier. Probably not as good value. Anyway, that's 10 minutes on the first tier. We'll try to knock out the next 4 tiers in 10 to 15 minutes. So tier 2, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, and Evan Engram. George Kittle has been a top 5 tight end and in 5 of the past 6 seasons, so I'm not worried about him at all. If you look at his route run, his route participation percentage by year, it's just gone up and up and up. And I would argue that having Brock Purdy is a lot better than having fucking Jimmy G and Trey Lance and whoever the hell else he's had most of his career. It doesn't matter if Ayuk is stay. Honestly, if Ayuk is gone, then Kittle may go up a tier and the tier 1 guys. But for now, I think he's just a really, really safe option. He goes a lot later than the top 5, so targeting him as your starting tight end, I think, is a good idea. Kyle Pitts, I have faded for the past 2 seasons and been very thankful that I did. He had a great rookie season. And then both of the past 2 seasons, he's been drafted as a top 5 tight end, despite not having that production whatsoever. Last season, I think he was drafted. I don't know, pretty fucking high, top 8, top 10, despite being like outside the top 15 in fantasy points per game the year prior. Yada yada yada. This year, he finally has Kirk Cousins, which is 10 times better than Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, and Matt Ryan was okay when he was with Kyle Pitts, but we've seen some steady touchdown increasing, which I think will increase more with a higher scoring offense. Not only do I like that Kirk Cousins is there, Arthur Smith's shitty ass is gone. Jonnu Smith's shitty ass is gone. Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator for the Rams, is in. I believe that Kyle Pitts is ranked properly. I think he will have a great season. I don't view him I cannot put him up here with these guys, and I can't put him above George Kittle because he's not nearly as safe just because we haven't seen it. We've been wrongly projecting him for years now. But I do agree that the upside is there and that it should hit. Evan Engram was the tight end 2 last season, had 114 catches, which I want to say is the second most all-time by a tight end or something like that. And I just said that in my quarterbacks video that I am in on Trevor Lawrence and this passing offense this year. With Trevor Lawrence being more healthy, they got some new receivers in there. I think Evan Engram will still be a top 2 option in this offense. Maybe he could score more than 4 touchdowns. I think his floor has to probably be a little lower than everyone else I've talked about, except maybe Pitts. But Pitts has more upside, so that's why I'm 6 Kittle, 7 Pitts, 8 Engram. But like I said, these are tiers. Rank 1 through 5 however you want, but they all got to be above 6 through 8. Rank 6 through 8 however you want, but they all got to be above all the guys in this next tier, which is the solid tier. These are solid starting tight ends that I would be okay with. Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, Barack Bowers, Dallas Goedert, and Pat Freiermuth. I'll give really quick spiels on all of these guys. Jake Ferguson, I really like. He had a shit ton of red zone targets last year that didn't end up converting, but this year, Dallas added nothing at receiver. They lost Michael Gallup to the Raiders, who actually just retired as I'm recording this video earlier this morning. But anyway, they have CeeDee Lamb, and outside of CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson might be that second option. And for a team that was number 1 in points per game scored last season, maybe they're definitely expected to regress a little bit, but this should be a high-scoring offense. Jake Ferguson was a target hawk in the red zone last year, just didn't see quite the conversion. I think he could have double-digit touchdowns. Solid floor. Maybe not a ton of upside, but if you miss out on the first 8 guys, I'm all right waiting until round 8, 9, 10, wherever Ferguson goes and snagging him. David Njoku. A lot of people are worried that the breakout with Joe Flacco is not going to maintain because Deshaun Watson is there. I'm not really worried about that. This is going to be a pass-heavy offense. David Njoku, I do still expect to be a red zone machine. It's just another guy that I think is a solid option. I don't think he's going to be the fucking animal he was. He was averaging 15 points per game with Joe Flacco. All right, yes, I am in a new shirt because I went to the gym, got my workout in, came back, showered, sat down to edit this video, and realized the entire second half of the video that I recorded just decided to not record. So, not sure what happened to that. That is awesome. But pretty sure we left off with David Njoku. I already forget what I said, so my bad. But I'm pretty sure I talked about him a good amount. So David Njoku is a pretty solid option. Brock Bowers, man, he's one of the best rookie prospects we've seen in a long time, alongside Kyle Pitts. Honestly, could see him in the tier above had he landed in a better situation. But the Raiders, man, it's a pretty crowded offense with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. I do think they kind of want to be a little bit run heavy. And obviously, Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew is not the best quarterback situation. But I do expect him to be a target earner. It's just like the Raiders, they're a pretty bad offense. They're at least mediocre offense with a good defense. I don't think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts, not going to be in high-scoring games. Not ideal for fantasy. He'll have some high highs and some low lows, I think. Dallas Goedert, a guy that's getting really overlooked. I mean, a couple of years ago, he's a top 8 tight end pretty much every single season. And if you want a piece of this Eagles offense, I personally recommend it. Kellen Moore coming in at offensive coordinator, I think is going to be a really good thing for this offense, especially for fantasy football. Big on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, as well as Jalen Hurts. Pretty undecided on Saquon Barkley, but Dallas Goedert doesn't really score touchdowns, but he gives you one of the safest floors you can ask for. A little 5 or 6 catches, a little 60, 70, 80 yards. Might not score, but he's not going to lose you a league. He's not going to lose you a week. So, Pat Freiermuth, I have him at tight end 13. I would really like to move him up. Maybe once we get towards the season. I'm not that bold yet. As of right now, though, I think he'll be a tight end 1. He was the tight end 8 in his rookie season, and then he was the tight end 13. Last year, he dealt with a ton of injuries. He was pretty bad for fantasy football, but he did show you how capable he still was. He had, I'm pretty sure, a 13 target, 11 catch, 120-yard week with Kenny Pickett at the helm. I think there's a lot to blame. The Steelers scored the least amount of touchdowns in the NFL last season. They had Kenny Pickett at quarterback. And he was injured. But this season, going in with Arthur Smith, who loves to use his tight ends, whether it's Kyle Pitts or Jonnu Smith. I don't know who the Jonnu Smith is supposed to be in this offense. Maybe it's Cordero Patterson again, so who fucking knows. But he has a very high usage for tight ends. Arthur Smith just has a really bad narrative. And he's going to be the second option in this offense. Like, Deontay's gone, it's going to be Pickens number 1, and honestly, Pat Freiermuth should be number 2 unless we get a rookie breakout from day 2 Roman Wilson. So, next tier, these are the guys that are streamable. You might not be drafting them, maybe towards the end of your drafts if you are a 2 tight end type of guy, and maybe you ended up with one of the guys in tier 3. But these are, guys that you can stream in your lineup if they play a shitty defense or they're having some good weeks here and there. Now there's T.J. Hockenson, Hunter Henry, Dalton Schultz, Luke Musgrave, Cole Kmet, and Tyler Conklin. Now, T.J. Hockenson is in this tier because he's coming off an ACL injury, and I don't think people realize he's going to miss 8 to 10 games. Like, he got hurt really, really late in the year last year. Like, he played 14, 15 games last season and then tore his ACL. And he didn't even get surgery till late January. He just got put on the PUP list. He'll 100% miss the first half of the season, and it could be even longer. And we don't even know what it's going to look like. He might not be the same when he gets thrown in there, dealing with the rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold. I just don't think he's worth a draft pick, to be honest. You're gonna maybe in best ball, yeah, but in redraft, you don't want him to sit on your bench for 12 weeks, holding up a roster spot, and just hope that you're in the playoffs and make him useful. It's not worth it. Hunter Henry, just the touchdown upside. He scores touchdowns. Maybe the Patriots offense will take a step forward. If they're going to score, it's probably going to be Hunter Henry. Dalton Schultz, very, very crowded offense. Kind of the similar. Him and Luke Musgrave, I think, are very similar. There's a very crowded offense. You're probably not going to be able to rely on them for a lot of catches and yards, but if they get in the end zone, which could happen here and there. I think more so for Luke Musgrave, but hey, Dalton Schultz, I mean, both of these offenses are going to be top 10. So you never know. Maybe they have some Cole Kmet-esque weeks and give you some touchdowns. Of speaking of Cole Kmet, he's in this tier as well. Not in on him this year. He was overvalued last year because he had a bunch of big touchdown weeks, and then he did the same thing last year, really. Scored a bunch of touchdowns. He's got these spike weeks, I will give him that. But this year, in a run-heavy offense with a really solid defense, meaning less points scored, less fantasy points, way more crowded offense, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and a rookie quarterback, I just don't see the upside here. Tyler Conklin, you're probably looking at this tier like, man, shouldn't that bum be in the bottom tier? I don't think enough people are talking about Tyler Conklin. I don't think he's going to be this top 10 tight end or anything, but like low-key wouldn't be surprised. Because he's got 3 seasons in a row of 87 targets, 60-something catches, and 600 yards. I don't have it in front of me, but 600 or 700 yards last season. But anyway, he was top 12 in receiving, and he scored 0 touchdowns, okay? Because he was on the worst offense in the NFL. They had the least amount of passing offense. They had 11 passing touchdowns the entire season. Horrible. He was, if you just give him a couple of touchdowns, if you give him 4 touchdowns, he ends up as a top 12 tight end last year. So, I expect that with Aaron Rodgers. I can see him get in the end zone 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 times. I don't think there's much to go around in this offense. You got Garrett Wilson, and outside of that, it's really just Breece Hall. Mike Williams is probably going to miss some time coming back from his injury. He's getting a little old. And Aaron Rodgers loves tight ends. Shout out Rob Tunyon, the dude who put up double-digit touchdowns with Rodgers. Like, I could just see this being a weird little linkage here, and he bounces into the end zone a couple times, ends up as a bottom tier tight end 1, like a 10 to 12. I could see it. Last tier, these are the dart throws that, all these guys are getting hyped up in some way by somebody in this offseason. Cade Otton, Noah Fant, Jonnu Smith, Mike Gesicki, Chig Okonkwo, Jelani Woods, Colby Parkinson. I'm pretty sure that is Colby Parkinson. I wasn't really sure, but when I put him in this tier, that's who I thought it was, so that's who it is. If that's not him, I mean Colby Parkinson. Greg Dulcich, and Zach Ertz, who I'm pretending is Ben Sinnott because he was not on this list. So, Cade Otton, I mean, yeah, I don't got much to say on Cade Otton. He didn't really do shit last week, except maybe a couple of weeks. Shouldn't really be owned. Noah Fant and Jonnu Smith are both being kind of hyped up to get some touchdowns here in their new offenses. Noah Fant's being hyped up like a David Njoku breakout, and Jonnu Smith is just kind of being hyped up to do what he did last season in this high-scoring offense, so who knows. Mike Gesicki, another guy that I think is going to be a part of a really good offense that's going to be very pass-heavy. He could sneak into the end zone a couple of times. The only way any of these guys in this tier are valuable are if they get into the end zone. Like, none of these guys are going to be top receiving tight ends. Chig Okonkwo, another pass-heavy offense, realistically. Jelani Woods missed his entire second season after kind of being hyped up a little bit. Anthony Richardson really likes his tight ends, although there's a lot of tight ends in Indy. Colby Parkinson replacing an injured Tyler Higbee coming off his injury. Greg Dulcich, the year 11 breakout, it feels like at this point. I don't actually know how old he is. He's been in the league for a couple of years. Honestly, I think just 2, maybe 3. And then Ben Sinnott, the rookie, who I think is a very good blocker, very good prospect. Let's just hope that Ertz doesn't stand in his way, or realistically, he could be in the tier above. So, like I said, not much to say on these guys. They're dart throws. Maybe 1 or 2 of them have a small little breakout. But other than that, I don't really see it. So you got your elite guys, you got your pretty damn good starting tight ends, you got your solid tight ends, you got your streamable tight ends that you can pick up on a week-to-week basis for injuries and buys and stuff like that. And then you got your dart throws that probably won't be owned for most of the season. But that will wrap up my tight end tier video. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please leave a like, a comment, or a subscribe. I'm really grinding this content out, putting out 2, 3, 4 videos a week. Come NFL season, hoping to keep it about 4 or 5. Comment any videos that you would like to see, and low-key rate my thumbnail in the comments. Like, I think I'm trying to get a lot better at thumbnails, but we'll see you in the next video.